The vast emptiness of space held many secrets, but none quite as surprising as what the Galactic Empire's patrol ship Star Seeker discovered that fateful day. The ship's captain, a decorated officer named Reed, stared at his display screen with mild curiosity as his vessel detected signs of civilization from a previously unmarked solar system. "Another primitive world," Reed muttered, following standard Empire protocol by scanning the third planet from its sun. His boredom quickly turned to interest as the readings showed significant technological advancement, though still far behind Empire standards. The blue planet, known to its inhabitants as Earth, had no idea they were being watched. Their satellites, primitive by Empire standards, failed to detect the advanced cloaking technology of the Star Seeker. Reed observed the planet's communications, military movements, and energy signatures with growing interest. "Send a report to High Command," Reed ordered his communications officer. "We have found an emerging civilization with potential for integration into the Empire." The Empire's High Command received the report with their usual methodical efficiency. Within hours, they dispatched their standard first contact fleet. 5 massive warships designed to intimidate any potential resistance into submission. The Empire had used this strategy successfully for thousands of years, and they saw no reason to change their approach. Admiral James stood at the window of the International Space Defense Command Center, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass. The facility, buried deep within the Rocky Mountains, represented humanity's first unified military command structure. The Admiral's gray hair and lined face spoke of decades of military service, but his eyes remained sharp and alert. The detection came without warning. Multiple objects, massive in size, dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the Moon. Earth's recently installed quantum detection grid worked perfectly, giving them advance notice of the visitors. "All stations, battle stations," James ordered calmly, "but take no aggressive action. Let's see what they want first." The Empire's ships positioned themselves in a standard formation, their massive hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Each vessel stretched nearly 3 miles long, dwarfing humanity's largest space stations. Their design spoke of advanced technology and military might, exactly as intended. The first transmission came in on all frequencies, automatically translated by the Empire's advanced systems into Earth's major languages. The message was simple and direct. "Greetings, people of Earth. You are hereby invited to join the Galactic Empire, bringing prosperity and advancement to your world. Resistance is unnecessary and would only lead to unfortunate consequences." In the command center, military leaders from various nations watched the transmission with grim faces. They had prepared for this possibility, but the reality of first contact still struck them with its magnitude. "Send our response," Admiral James instructed. "Inform them that Earth's representatives will meet with their delegation to discuss terms." The Empire's ambassador, a tall figure named Lord Blake, arrived with an escort of guards. Their sleek shuttlecraft landed at the newly constructed neutral meeting facility in Antarctica. The location had been chosen carefully, a show of humanity's ability to build in extreme conditions. James watched as the Empire's delegation entered the conference room. Lord Blake moved with the confidence of someone used to these proceedings, probably having overseen dozens of planetary integrations before. His perfectly tailored uniform sparkled with decorations, and his posture radiated authority. "Welcome to Earth," James said, standing to greet them. "We are honored by your presence." Lord Blake's smile didn't reach his eyes. "The honor is yours, indeed. The Empire brings great benefits to primitive, developing worlds such as yours. We look forward to a smooth transition of authority." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. James maintained his diplomatic smile, but his mind was already racing through contingency plans. The Empire's arrogance was evident. They clearly saw Earth as just another conquest. "Perhaps," James replied carefully, "we should discuss the terms of this proposed integration in detail." As the initial meeting proceeded, both sides measured each other carefully. The Empire's representatives spoke of trade benefits, technological advancement, and the protection they offered. They never mentioned the weapons their ships carried or the fate of worlds that had refused their invitation. James listened patiently, noting every subtle threat and condescending remark. He knew that humanity's response in the coming days would shape the future of Earth. As the meeting concluded, he couldn't help but notice Lord Blake's dismissive glance at Earth's representatives. The Empire had no idea what they were walking into. They had never encountered humans before, and their ignorance of Earth's history would prove to be their greatest mistake. Little did they know, humanity was about to teach them a lesson they would never forget. The second day of negotiations took place in the same Antarctic facility. The temperature outside had dropped to -40 degrees, but inside, the atmosphere was even colder. Lord Blake sat at one end of the long table, flanked by his advisors, while Admiral James and Earth's delegation occupied the other end. "Let me tell you about our glorious history," Lord Blake began, his voice filled with pride. "For 10,000 years, the Empire has brought peace and prosperity to the galaxy. Over 300,000 worlds exist under our banner. None have ever successfully resisted our integration." Admiral James nodded politely, but his eyes remained hard. "That's quite impressive. Now, perhaps you'd like to hear about our history." Lord Blake waved his hand dismissively. "We've studied your primitive conflicts, small wars over resources and territory. Nothing that compares to galactic-scale warfare." With respect, James replied, standing up and walking to the room's main display screen. "I don't think you've studied us carefully enough." The screen flickered to life, showing images that made even the Empire's representatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. Scenes from human history played out before them: ancient battles, medieval wars, modern conflicts, and the devastation of nuclear weapons. "In just the last century," James continued, his voice steady, "we fought 2 world wars. The second one ended with atomic weapons. We then spent 50 years in a Cold War, where 2 superpowers held enough nuclear weapons to destroy our planet several times over." Lord Blake's confident smile began to fade as James continued. "We've fought in every environment imaginable: desert warfare, jungle combat, urban conflict, Arctic battles, underwater engagements. We've mastered guerrilla warfare, conventional warfare, and nuclear deterrence. Our soldiers train in conditions that would kill most species." The screen showed modern military exercises, Marines training in Arctic conditions, desert warfare units operating in 120-degree heat, submarine crews staying submerged for months. "Currently," James continued, "Earth maintains over 150 separate Special Forces units. We have weapons that can strike any point on our planet within minutes. Our submarines can stay hidden for months, carrying enough firepower to level continents." An Empire military advisor leaned forward, speaking for the first time. "But you have no experience in space combat." James smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We've been preparing for space warfare since before we reached orbit. Our military strategists, scientists, and engineers have developed technologies and tactics specifically for space combat. We may not have fought in space yet, but we understand warfare better than you might think." He pressed another button, and the screen showed Earth's orbital defense grid, submarine-launched space missiles, and planetary defense systems. "What you see here is less than 10% of our military capability. The rest remains classified. But let me be clear, we don't want war. We're happy to discuss peaceful cooperation, trade, and cultural exchange." However, James paused, making eye contact with Lord Blake. "If you're planning to conquer Earth, I strongly suggest you reconsider." Lord Blake laughed, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "Are you threatening the Empire? We could deploy 1,000 ships to this sector within days." "Not a threat," James replied calmly. "Just a friendly warning. You see, humans have something unique. We learn from our conflicts. Each war has taught us new lessons, improved our tactics, advanced our technology. We've spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare, not because we love it, but because we had to survive. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire representatives exchanged glances, clearly unsettled by this unexpected response to their standard intimidation tactics. Consider this, James concluded. You've conquered 300,000 worlds without serious resistance. That means you haven't had to adapt, to evolve your tactics, to really fight for survival. You've never faced an enemy who had nothing to lose and everything to gain. You've never dealt with a species that turned warfare into a science. He switched off the display and returned to his seat. So yes, you could send 1,000 ships. But ask yourselves this, are you prepared for what would happen next? Because we are. We've been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars. The meeting ended shortly after, with Lord Blake's usual confidence noticeably shaken. As the Empire delegation departed, one of Earth's military advisors turned to James. Do you think they'll listen? James watched their shuttle take off through the facility's windows. They'll either listen and leave us alone, or they'll learn the hard way why humans have survived everything our own world has thrown at us. He turned away from the window. For their sake, I hope they choose to run. The Empire's response to Earth's warning came 3 days later. A fleet of 50 warships emerged from hyperspace, positioning themselves in an attack formation above Earth's atmosphere. Their commander, Admiral Hunt of the Empire, believed this show of force would quickly bring the defiant humans to their knees. Send the message, Hunt commanded from his flagship's bridge. Tell them they have 1 hour to surrender, or we'll demonstrate the Empire's power. On Earth, military commands worldwide went to high alert. Admiral James stood in the Global Defense Center, watching the enemy fleet's formation on the massive display screen. Around him, military personnel from different nations worked with practiced efficiency, their previous rivalries forgotten in the face of an external threat. They're using a standard wedge formation, James observed, just like every military textbook would suggest. Predictable. The Empire's ultimatum arrived right on schedule. Hunt's face appeared on their screens, his expression stern and confident. Your time for peaceful integration has passed. Surrender now, or face the consequences of your defiance. James looked at the assembled military leaders from various nations, receiving silent nods of agreement. They had prepared for this moment, and now their plans would be put to the test. Activate Defense Grid Alpha, James ordered, but hold fire until they make the first move. The Empire fleet maintained their position until the deadline passed. Then, exactly as their military doctrine prescribed, they launched their first strike. Energy weapons powered up, targeting what they believed to be Earth's major military installations. They never expected what happened next. As the Empire's weapons fired, Earth's atmosphere suddenly lit up with thousands of points of light. The planetary defense shield, hidden until now, absorbed the initial barrage completely. Before the Empire could react, the real surprise revealed itself. Launch countermeasure pattern Delta, James commanded. From hidden silos across Earth's surface, thousands of missiles streaked toward space. But these weren't ordinary missiles. They were equipped with experimental quantum disruption warheads, specifically designed to combat advanced energy shields. Impossible, Hunt exclaimed as his sensors detected the incoming swarm. Their weapons are barely space-capable. Maintain formation. And his orders came too late. The missiles detonated in complex patterns, creating overlapping fields of quantum disruption. Empire shields flickered and failed, their advanced technology rendered useless by humanity's understanding of their own recently discovered quantum physics. The second wave of Earth's defense came from orbital platforms that had remained cloaked until now. Railguns fired projectiles at significant percentages of light speed, tearing through the now unshielded Empire ships. Break formation, Hunt ordered, but the rigid training of Empire crews worked against them. They attempted to maintain their textbook formations even as Earth's weapons found their marks. In the defense center, James watched as the Empire fleet struggled to adapt. They've never faced an enemy who could fight back effectively. He noted, they don't know how to handle tactical surprises. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. When it ended, 37 Empire ships had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining vessels, including Hunt's flagship, retreated in disarray, jumping to hyperspace in uncoordinated panic. As damage reports came in, James was relieved to find that Earth's casualties were minimal. The planetary shield had held, and most of their defensive capabilities remained intact and hidden. "Send a message to the Empire's high command," James ordered. "Tell them this was just our first line of defense. Tell them we have more surprises waiting if they wish to continue this conflict." In the aftermath, recovery teams moved to capture disabled Empire ships, already planning to study and adapt their technology. Engineers began analyzing the battle data, looking for ways to improve their defenses further. A junior officer approached James with a datapad. "Sir, intercepts from the Empire fleet's communications suggest they're in complete shock. They've never lost ships in these numbers before." James nodded grimly. They'd grown complacent. 10,000 years of easy victories made them forget what real warfare is like. He looked at the tactical display, where debris from Empire ships now orbited Earth. But they're about to remember. As cleanup operations began, James couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and concern. Earth had won its first space battle, but he knew the Empire wouldn't take this humiliation lightly. They would return with a larger force, but by then, humanity would be even better prepared. The real war was just beginning, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy why they should have heeded the warning to run. 2 weeks after repelling the Empire's first attack, Earth launched its counter-offensive. Operation Thunderbolt began not with a massive fleet engagement, but with something the Empire never expected: a single ship. Commander Bill stood on the bridge of the ESS Ghost, Earth's first stealth space vessel. Built using reverse-engineered technology from captured Empire ships, combined with decades of submarine warfare experience, the Ghost lived up to its name. It was practically invisible to Empire sensors. "All systems dark," Bill whispered, though in space, sound didn't matter. Old habits from submarine service died hard. "Take us in close to their outpost." The Empire's forward base orbited a dead moon in a nearby star system. Their sensors swept space regularly, but they weren't looking for a ship running cold, using minimal power, and drifting in on calculated momentum. They had never encountered this kind of space warfare before. "Just like stalking a boomer in the Atlantic," Bill murmured, remembering his submarine days. The Ghost carried a cargo of specially designed autonomous drones, each loaded with viral computer code developed from studying captured Empire systems. As they drifted past the base's outer sensor perimeter, Bill's weapons officer, Rogers, began deploying the drones. Each one was barely larger than a coffee can, powered by cold gas thrusters that left no energy signature. "Drones away," Rogers reported quietly, maintaining the submarine-like atmosphere on the bridge. "They're moving into position." The Empire base continued its routine operations, unaware of the invisible threat approaching from multiple angles. The drones attached themselves to communication arrays and sensor nodes, waiting for the signal. "Execute," Bill ordered. The drones activated simultaneously, injecting their viral payload into the Empire's systems. Alarms began blaring across the base as their computers turned against them. Defense systems shut down, communication arrays went dark, and life support systems began reporting false emergencies. In the confusion, the Ghost powered up its weapons. The Empire base, designed to defend against frontal assaults from large fleets, had no defense against an enemy already inside its perimeter. "Target their primary reactor cooling systems," Bill commanded, "just like we planned." Precision strikes from the Ghost's railguns destroyed key infrastructure points. The base, unable to coordinate its defense or call for help, fell into chaos. Empire troops, trained for traditional space combat, had no protocol for dealing with this type of asymmetric warfare. Launch boarding parties, Bill ordered. Teams of Earth Special Forces, trained in zero-gravity combat and equipped with armor designed for space warfare, breached the crippled station at multiple points. The Empire's soldiers fought bravely, but were overwhelmed by Earth's unconventional tactics. The humans moved through the station in small, coordinated teams, using techniques perfected in urban warfare on Earth. They avoided main corridors, cut through maintenance shafts, and approached from unexpected angles. Within hours, the station was under human control. The Earth forces had captured not only a strategic position, but also a treasure trove of Empire technology and intelligence data. Send the signal, Bill commanded. Phase 1 complete. Across space, 11 other Earth vessels, each operating independently, carried out similar attacks on Empire installations. The Empire's rigid command structure, accustomed to coordinating large fleet actions, couldn't adapt to this distributed, guerrilla-style warfare. In the captured station's command center, Bill accessed the Empire's communication network. He transmitted a message that would be received across Empire space. You were warned. This is just the beginning. Back on Earth, Admiral James received the operation reports with satisfaction. The Empire had expected Earth to follow conventional military doctrine, to gather a fleet and challenge them directly. Instead, humanity had brought its own style of warfare to space. Send in the second wave, James ordered. Let's show them what else we've learned from our history of warfare. As reinforcements secured the captured positions, Bill stood at a viewport on the conquered station, watching Empire ships jumping in and out of nearby space in confusion. They were searching for a large enemy fleet, unable to comprehend that their mighty facilities had fallen to small teams using stealth and surprise. They still don't understand, he said to his executive officer. They think war in space must be fought with huge fleets and overwhelming force. They forgot that sometimes the smallest knife cuts deepest. The first phase of Operation Thunderbolt was complete, but Earth was just getting started. The Empire was about to learn why humans had survived countless wars throughout their history. They never fought the same way twice. In the Empire's Central Intelligence Hub, located on their capital world, General West stared at the streams of data with growing horror. Initially tasked with understanding why their forces kept failing against the humans, he had uncovered something far more terrifying. Play the historical records again, he commanded his research team. The holographic display filled with images from Earth's past, scenes that made even seasoned Empire warriors uncomfortable. Sir, one of his analysts spoke up, we've confirmed that humans have fought approximately 15,000 significant wars in their recorded history. Their weapons evolved from sticks and stones to nuclear devices in less than 10,000 years. West watched footage of World War II tank battles, Vietnam jungle warfare, and modern urban combat operations. Each conflict showed humans adapting, improving, and becoming more efficient at warfare. They don't just fight wars, another analyst noted, pointing to training simulations. They study them. Every human military academy analyzes past conflicts. They have entire institutions dedicated to learning from their battles. The display shifted to show human military academies. West Point, Sandhurst, St. Cyr, places where warfare wasn't just taught, but dissected and understood at a fundamental level. This explains everything, West muttered, watching footage of Special Forces training exercises. While we've spent millennia perfecting one way of fighting, they've developed thousands of different combat strategies. A junior officer rushed into the room, carrying an urgent report. Sir, we've decoded more data from their captured communications. The humans have a saying, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. West sank into his chair, the implications hitting him hard. The Empire had grown soft through easy victories, while humans had been forged in the fires of constant conflict. Show me their combat doctrines, he ordered. The display filled with various military strategies, blitzkrieg tactics, guerrilla warfare, siege operations, naval warfare, asymmetric combat, psychological operations, and more. Each represented a different way of fighting, all mastered by humans over their bloody history. Their entire species, West realized, is built around adapting to warfare. Even their sports and games are based on combat principles. His analysts had found recordings of boxing matches, martial arts tournaments, and military training exercises. They showed humans voluntarily engaging in combat-like activities for recreation and preparation. "Sir," his senior analyst interrupted, "you need to see this." The display showed the development of human weapons, from spears to spacecraft. They've never stopped innovating. Even during peacetime, they prepare for war. West watched as the presentation showed human military budgets, research facilities, and defense industries. Even when not actively fighting, humans invested enormous resources in preparing for the next conflict. And this, the analyst continued, showing footage of children playing military games, is how they raise their young. Combat simulation is part of their entertainment. The Empire general felt a chill run down his spine. The Empire had conquered through overwhelming force and superior technology. But humans had turned warfare into an art form. What about their space combat doctrine? West asked, dreading the answer. "That's the worst part, sir," his analyst replied. "They've taken every lesson from their terrestrial warfare and adapted it for space. Their stealth ships operate like submarines. Their fighters use tactics from aerial combat. Even their electronic warfare is based on centuries of espionage experience." West stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Empire's capital city. For 10,000 years, they'd believed themselves invincible. Now they faced a species that had spent its entire existence learning to fight and survive. "Prepare a full report for the High Council," he ordered. "They need to understand what we're dealing with. These humans, they're not just another species to conquer. They're what we could have become if we'd faced real challenges over the millennia." As his team compiled the report, West reviewed one final piece of data: human casualty figures from their major wars. The numbers were staggering, yet after each conflict, humans rebuilt and grew stronger. "Send a priority message to all fleet commanders," he added. Tell them to study human history before engaging in any further combat operations. We're not facing primitives. We're facing the most experienced warriors in the galaxy." The revelation was complete, but West feared it might have come too late. The Empire had awakened a species that didn't just practice warfare. They had perfected it through millennia of combat evolution. And now that perfection was turned against the Empire. Commander Jack stood on the bridge of the ESS Dreadnought, watching as his fleet of 30 Earth ships moved into position around the Empire's primary military shipyard. After 3 months of warfare, humanity had shifted from defensive operations to an all-out offensive. "Enemy fleet detected," his tactical officer reported. 100 Empire vessels moving to intercept. Jack smiled. The Empire still hadn't learned. They continued to rely on superior numbers and conventional tactics, exactly what he planned for. "Execute Operation Solar Wind," he ordered. The Earth fleet suddenly split apart, breaking into seemingly random patterns that defied traditional space combat doctrine. The Empire commanders, trained to fight against organized formations, struggled to adapt to this chaos. "They're trying to reform their battle line," Jack's second-in-command noted. Just as predicted. The Empire fleet, following their standard protocol, attempted to create a unified front against the scattered Earth vessels. It was exactly the wrong move. "Launch the mines," Jack commanded. From the cargo holds of Earth's ships, thousands of small devices scattered into space. These weren't traditional mines. They were autonomous drones equipped with short-range jump drives, another innovation born from studying captured Empire technology. "Watch this," Jack said, as the Empire fleet moved forward. 3, 2, 1. The drones activated simultaneously, each performing a micro-jump into the midst of the Empire formation. Before the Empire ships could react, the drones detonated, creating localized disruption fields that shut down their engines and weapons. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Jack ordered. The scattered Earth vessels suddenly moved with purpose, their seemingly random positions now revealing themselves as perfect attack vectors. They struck from multiple angles, their weapons targeting specific vulnerabilities they'd learned from previous encounters. On the Empire flagship, Admiral Rex watched in horror as his formation fell apart. "How do they keep doing this?" he demanded. "Every time we adapt to their tactics, they change them." The Earth fleet moved like a swarm of angry insects, striking and withdrawing, never presenting a clear target. Empire gunners, trained to hit ships in traditional combat formations, couldn't track the erratic movement patterns. "Sir," Jack's tactical officer called out, "they're trying to concentrate their remaining ships around the shipyard." "Perfect," Jack replied. "Launch the boarders." While the Empire focused on the visible threat, specially modified Earth shuttles, covered in sensor-absorbing materials, slipped through the chaos toward the shipyard. Each carried teams of veterans from Earth's Special Forces communities. The boarding teams breached the shipyard's outer hull using techniques perfected in underwater demolitions. They moved through the station's corridors using urban warfare tactics, striking from unexpected angles and disappearing before the defenders could respond. Shipyard Control reports multiple internal breaches, an Empire officer reported frantically. "They're everywhere." Jack watched as the massive shipyard's defenses began to fail. The Empire had built their facilities to withstand frontal assaults, never imagining an enemy would infiltrate them from within. "Send the signal," he ordered. "Let's show them our final surprise." The Earth ships suddenly accelerated to maximum speed, charging directly at the remaining Empire fleet. The Empire commanders, believing they finally had the humans fighting conventionally, moved to meet them. "All ships, execute jump sequence," Jack commanded. In perfect coordination, the Earth fleet performed a maneuver that the Empire had thought impossible, a synchronized short-range jump that placed them directly behind the enemy formation. In the seconds it took the Empire ships to realize what had happened, the Earth fleet opened fire on their exposed rear sections. The battle ended in less than an hour. The Empire lost 87 ships and their primary shipyard. The Earth fleet suffered minimal casualties. As Jack surveyed the aftermath, he received a transmission from Earth Command. Admiral James appeared on his screen. "Well done, Commander," James said. "The Empire's High Council is in emergency session. Our intelligence suggests they're finally beginning to understand what they're dealing with." Jack nodded. "They thought war in space had to follow certain rules. We showed them that humanity's greatest strength is our ability to break those rules and write new ones." As his crews began securing the captured shipyard, Jack reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had taken its first steps into space warfare less than a year ago, but they'd brought with them thousands of years of combat experience and innovation. The Empire was learning a harsh lesson. Never underestimate a species that had turned warfare into an art form through millennia of practice. And the lesson wasn't over yet. The Imperial High Council chamber, a vast room that had witnessed 10,000 years of galactic governance, now hosted the most humbling moment in Empire history. Lord Blake, who had delivered the Empire's first ultimatum to Earth, sat quietly as Admiral James entered with the Earth delegation. The chamber's grand architecture, designed to intimidate visitors, seemed to have no effect on the human representatives. They had seen enough Empire grandeur by now to be immune to its psychological impact. "Let the record show," the Empire's High Chancellor began, his voice echoing through the chamber, "that this emergency session has been called to address the ongoing conflict with Earth." Admiral James stood calmly, his posture relaxed but alert. The Empire officials noted how different he looked from their first meeting, not because he had changed, but because they now understood what he represented. "In 3 months," the Chancellor continued, "Earth forces have captured or destroyed 1/3 of our military assets. Our primary shipyard is under human control. 12 major bases have fallen. Our combat effectiveness has been compromised." An Empire military advisor stood up, his voice trained. Our forces cannot adapt quickly enough to human tactics. They change their strategy with every engagement. We have no effective counter." James listened to their assessment without comment. He had brought with him a data pad containing Earth's terms for peace, but he waited patiently as the Empire leaders came to terms with their situation. "Perhaps most concerning," the Chancellor added, "is the effect this conflict has had on our member worlds. Several systems are now questioning our ability to protect them. The Empire's stability is at risk." Finally, James spoke. "The Empire's stability was at risk the moment you decided to conquer Earth rather than approach us as equals. But we're not here to discuss your mistakes. We're here to talk about the future." He activated his data pad, projecting Earth's terms into the chamber's holographic display system. The Empire leaders leaned forward, expecting harsh demands for reparations and territory. Instead, they found something surprising. "These terms are reasonable," the Chancellor said, unable to hide his shock. "You're not demanding our surrender." James shook his head. "Earth has no interest in conquering the Empire. We never did. All we want is recognition of our independence and equal status in galactic affairs. Plus, of course, a non-aggression pact and fair trade agreements." The Empire's military advisor scoffed. "You could demand much more. Your forces have proven superior. Why show mercy?" "Because," James replied, "we understand something you don't. True strength isn't about conquering others. It's about knowing when to fight and when to make peace. Earth has seen enough wars to know the difference." The chamber fell silent as the Empire leaders considered his words. They had expected humans to behave like them, to seize power when they had the advantage. Instead, they were offering cooperation. "There are conditions," James continued. "The Empire must recognize the independence of any world that wishes to govern itself. No more forced integrations. No more conquests." The Chancellor looked around the chamber, seeing nods of agreement from his council members. They had all seen the reports, watched the battles, studied human history. They knew this was their best option. "And if we refuse?" one council member asked. James' expression remained neutral. "Then we continue fighting. Earth's production facilities are now manufacturing ships and weapons specifically designed to counter Empire technology. Our tactics will keep evolving. Our forces will keep adapting. Are you prepared for that?" The answer was clear in their faces. They weren't. "I move to accept Earth's terms," the Chancellor announced. Within minutes, the vote was unanimous. As the formal documents were prepared, Lord Blake approached James privately. "You knew, didn't you? From that first meeting, you knew how this would end." James nodded. "We tried to warn you. We told you to run. Instead, you chose to fight, and in doing so, you learned why humans are different. We don't wage war because we love it. We wage it because we've learned how to end it." The peace treaty was signed within the hour. As the Earth delegation prepared to leave, the Chancellor asked one final question. "What will humanity do now?" James paused at the chamber's entrance. "We'll do what we've always done. Prepare for the next challenge, adapt to new situations, and hope for peace while remaining ready for war. It's how we've survived this long." As their ship departed the Empire's capital world, James looked back at the glittering planet. The Empire had learned its lesson, but more importantly, humanity had proven itself ready for its place among the stars. They had warned the Empire to run. Instead, the Empire had learned to respect.